Hey there, history enthusiasts. Welcome back to my channel, The Tides of Memory. Today we're diving into a fascinating era, one that laid the groundwork for the world we live in today, the Bronze Age. So, grab your virtual time machine and let's explore the first cities, how the Bronze Age laid the foundation for civilization. The Bronze Age, which spanned roughly from 3300 to 1200 BCE, was a pivotal time for humanity. It didn't happen all at once, and it didn't happen everywhere at the same time, but when it did, it changed everything. Picture this. For tens of thousands of years, humans lived in small groups, roaming or farming in tiny villages. Then something shifted. Humans began to build something much bigger, cities. But why did this shift happen? What made people trade in their peaceful countryside life for crowded urban centers? Well, it all boils down to a few key ingredients: agriculture, rivers, and a growing population. Imagine living in a time when farming was just getting off the ground. The invention of the plow, the domestication of animals, and irrigation techniques made it possible to feed more people than ever before. Rivers like the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Nile in Egypt, the Indus in South Asia, and the Yellow River in China provided fertile soil and consistent water. These rivers weren't just geographic features, they were lifelines. With this reliable food source, people could settle down permanently, and when food became surplus, populations grew. When populations grew, you needed organization, and when organizations scaled up, you got cities. Let's take a closer look at one of the world's first cities, Uruk, in present-day Iraq. By around 3000 BCE, Uruk had tens of thousands of residents, unheard of for the time. It had monumental architecture, a temple economy, and even written records. That's right, writing was born in a city like this. So what actually made these early cities different from villages? Well, for one, they were permanent and planned. They weren't just clusters of houses. They had walls for defense. They had temples called ziggurats in Mesopotamia that towered over the city. And perhaps most importantly, they had leaders, rulers, and priests who directed labor, maintained order, collected taxes, and organized massive construction projects. Cities also needed people to do specific jobs. Not everyone was farming anymore. This is when we see the rise of specialization. Artisans, traders, soldiers, priests, builders, scribes, each person contributing something different. It was the birth of complex society, and with complexity came inequality. This is where things get really interesting. Early cities developed social hierarchies. Your place in society wasn't always about skill, it was often about birth. There were elites who lived in palaces and were buried with treasures, while laborers and slaves built the walls and temples, but left behind far fewer traces. Even ancient laws reflect this imbalance. Take Hammurabi's Code from Babylon, one of the earliest known law codes. It laid out different punishments for the same crime, depending on your social status. So yes, cities brought safety and innovation, but also control, class division, and sometimes even exploitation. Now let's talk trade. Early cities weren't isolated, they were connected by a growing network of trade routes. Cities in Mesopotamia didn't have much metal, so they traded grain, textiles, and ceramics for tin and copper from places like Anatolia, Iran, and even as far as Central Asia. This led to the rise of what historians call the Bronze Age international system, an interconnected web of kingdoms and city-states that exchanged goods, ideas, and sometimes threats. In marketplaces, you'd find lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, cedarwood from Lebanon, gold from Nubia, and olive oil from the Aegean. Trade wasn't just about stuff, it was about culture. Writing systems, technologies, and even myths spread along these ancient highways. Speaking of writing, this was one of the most revolutionary inventions of the Bronze Age. People began recording things on clay tablets using cuneiform or hieroglyphs. At first, writing was purely practical, keeping track of grain deliveries, tax payments, temple offerings. But soon it expanded into literature, legal codes, and even epic stories, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest surviving works of fiction. This ability to record knowledge transformed civilization. It allowed leaders to organize massive projects, pass down laws, and build on the ideas of past generations. Without writing, none of that would have been possible. So what's the big picture? What's the legacy of these early cities? Well, almost everything we associate with modern civilization, laws, government, economic systems, religion, education, and even cities themselves, has roots in this era. Think about it. Traffic, taxes, bureaucracy, trade, city planning, written contracts. We complain about them now, but they were game-changing innovations thousands of years ago. And while most of those early cities eventually fell, some to war, others to climate shifts or internal collapse, their blueprints lived on. Later civilizations like the Greeks, Romans, and eventually US built on those foundations. So there you have it. The Bronze Age wasn't just a time of shiny weapons and pretty pottery. It was the dawn of urban life, of recorded history, and of the world we know today. These first cities weren't perfect, but they were bold, ambitious, and utterly revolutionary. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more captivating history content. And let me know in the comments, if you could visit any ancient city for a day, which one would it be? Until next time, keep exploring the past right here on the Tides of Memory.